So the first thing in using this system is understanding how to actually add your purchased items into the items purchase section of the sheet. Alright, so I have an example here, which is a product, a beverage dispenser on Webstaurant Store, and here it is on Amazon. So if I'm shopping at Webstaurant Store to buy inventory, alright, I'm starting a purchase, and what I will do in my system is I will put the purchase number as 1. Right, this being my first purchase. If you want to use a different number, you could, but I'm going to start with 1. And the first item that I'm going to get from there, I'll put as item number 1, or the first item that I'm looking at. Okay, the purchase type is really optional, but I'm going to put inventory. And the idea here is that you might also be purchasing other things like materials. So you want to say what type of purchase this is. This is inventory, meaning it's a product you plan to sell. Supplier, I would also suggest typing in the supplier, which is going to be webstaurantstore.com. I suggest putting the full domain, so that way you can click it as a link. And then you have the date. So today's date is July 10th, so I would definitely put today's date. Okay, now as I go through, alright, if I've decided that I'm going to get this product, I can also put the product description in here as well, or the product title, and I would just copy and paste it in here. Supplier item number is really optional, but if you want, you can also do that. This is the supplier item number under here. So if I'm getting this product, I'm going to put that here. And then another thing is you have the link to the product, and again, a lot of this is optional because this stuff is not needed for calculations, but it's still good to have because it makes it easier to get back to the product later if you want to look at it again or buy it again or whatever your plans are. Okay, but now for the numerical part, first of all, we have the unit type. And actually this part is still not numerical, but you need to specify if it's a pack or if it's a single thing that you're buying, right? So in this case, I would say single, the way that they're selling it, because they're not saying that basically it would be a pack if you have to buy it as a pack, right? But what they're saying here is they're still charging you each, okay, for each bottle. So they're not saying you must get a pack of 12 or something like that. Okay, so in this case, this is just a single unit. I'm just going to put the word single. So I know that it's just, I'm buying single, I'm paying for single units. All right, and the number of items per unit, normally that's just 1. This items per unit is really so that when you do have a pack, you have to put how many items are in the pack. Okay, but this is just single, so if it's single, it's just 1. Okay, I also have unit description, which is kind of optional also, but I'll just put beverage, just a description of what it is that you're buying. Okay, each unit, right? Some way to describe the unit, just beverage dispenser. And now we look at how many units were actually purchased. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to actually save this. You need to decide, okay, how many units you're going to get. So now if you're just buying 1, if you would just add 1 to cart, I'm going to go ahead and do that so you can see the result. You'll see that it is $59.99 for 1 unit alone, right? So if you were buying just 1 unit, you would put units purchased 1, and your subtotal would be $59.99. Right, so it's really quite simple. I'm going to zoom this up a little bit. You can look at it a little closer. I'm going to kind of scroll over. Right, once I have that stuff on the left side, I can scroll over. All right, so $59.99 would be the subtotal for that 1 unit. All right, now this other stuff, which is calculated in here, I'll get to that in a few moments. But what I want to look at here is that this particular product, I'm going to go back to the product. They have a quantity discount if you buy in lots of 2. So I'll show you what that means. In other words, if I buy, I'm going to add 2 more to the cart. So I'm going to put 2 and add to cart. When I add these 2, it's going to be $53.71 each. So you get a discount instead of $59.99. And I'm going to view the cart. And you're going to see that that's $167.41. All right, is the subtotal because what happened is that the two I added, they're 53 each, 53.71, and the one by itself is 59.99. If you bought 4, then it would be 2 for 53.71. In fact, if I change this to 4 quantity, then they're all going to be 53.71 because they're giving me a deal only in pairs of 2. But let's just say I was only to buy 3, right? This would be my subtotal. Okay, my quantity is 3. So that's why the spreadsheet is set up the way it is, because then what you do is you put 3 units here. You're getting 3 single units, 3 single beverage dispensers, and your subtotal is this number 167.41, and you just type that right in. All right, and that's your subtotal. So what is your initial cost per unit? So now let me talk about this. The initial cost per unit simply means that when you take the subtotal divided by the number of units that you're getting, how much it comes down to per unit. So being that some of the units are 59.99 and some are 53.71, you see how it divides up as 55.80 per unit. So that's why this system is really good for determining the exact cost of what you actually paid for each item, right? So that you really know what your costs are just by typing in the correct information. Now, the additional cost per unit, that's going to come from here, which I'm going to show you when we add in the shipping and the tax and everything. But we don't do that until our cart is complete, because we don't know what the shipping and tax is until we add all the products that we're going to get. Okay, now so I'm going to leave this part alone because it'll make more sense when we add the other things. Okay, now the Amazon ASIN is the other part of this. So here's the same product on Amazon, as I said before, as this product that's in our cart, and here's the ASIN. I'm going to take this ASIN, and so selling on Amazon, what this is really important, because now you have a direct relationship between your purchase and between Amazon ASINs, so you know every purchase you made, what ASIN is corresponding to, right, by having it in this table. Now the number of purchase units per ASIN is going to be, well, the number of units that you have to buy, right, that matches to one ASIN. And the thing is, it's usually just one, so this is not something that you have to put a lot of thought into. It's not complicated. It's usually just one. It means you have to buy, for every one of these that you buy, it's one here on Amazon also. So it's 1 to 1, right? So in this example, it's quite simple. It's just one, all right? So for every one of that product you buy, it's one ASIN on Amazon, okay? Now the description of the ASIN, if you want to give that, you can. Okay, this is really kind of optional, but basically that would be like maybe the title. Okay, it says description, and it's really more like the title, right? It could be, or if you have something else you want to say, you could put that there as well. The cost per ASIN is $55.80 as a result, because there's each one of these is $55.80, so that's the cost. Okay, but until we add the shipping and tax. So this part you don't fill in yet. This is like when you get your shipment information, if you want to keep track of the shipment and the tracking of the product. Okay, so really we're done adding this product, and now I'm going to add on the next product. Now to add the next product on, the key thing to understand here is that we're still in the same purchase, right? It's a different product, but I consider this to be one, if you could call it a trip, for instance, or one purchase. Okay, so the purchase number is still going to be 1 for this second product. However, the item number, it's the second item of this purchase, so I'm going to put 2 for this item number, and this automatically gives me 1-2. I call that the purchase code, which is like the purchase number, the item number put together. And really everything is going to be the same. Inventory, okay, this is still web store. I can copy that down. This is July 10. I'm just going to type it. This I should be able to just copy it down. This I should be able to copy it down. Okay. Whoops, no, not this. Sorry. What am I doing? Okay. So these are actually different. Of course, it's a different product. Okay, so let me go back here, and now we're looking at a different product, which is this product, the Acopa. It's a tasting spoon. Okay, now this example is a little different, and I'm glad for this example because it helps show me A different situation where the quantity on Amazon does not match exactly to the quantity at the supplier. Meaning here at the supplier, it's $17.49 each, right? I don't see any quantity discount here. Oh, they do have cases. Okay. So if I were buying these individually, I would be buying them one by one, but then here I'm selling the 72 case, right? So that would be different. But they do have a 72 case here, actually, as it turns out. So what I could do is I could click on here, and it will be 72 per case. Okay, and that is $92.99 per case if you buy 1 to 2 cases. Okay, so now they match, right? Because on Amazon it's a 72 case of spoons, and at the supplier it's also a 72 case right down here or up here. But what I'm paying attention to here is the cost. So $92.99. All right, if you buy 3 or more cases at once, then you'll get this lower price. Okay, now what I'm gonna look at in the sheet, okay, first of all, the product description, let's get that in there from the supplier. Okay, and the supplier item number, like I said, is really optional, the supplier item number, but it just helps to further identify the product. I can take the URL, copy paste that as well. And this is not a single unit the way I see it, because we're getting a whole pack, right? So we're getting 72 in a case, right? So you could say it's a pack, and then you could say 72 items per unit. There's really different ways to look at this. This gets a little tricky because you can buy it individually or as a case. But if you were to say that it's a pack, then you would have to say 72 items. Alright, is in each pack. And then the unit description would be a pack of 72. And then let's say you bought 1 unit. Let's just say you only bought 1. Okay, this should not be a $sign. Sorry for that. So let me make sure this is a number. Okay, so basically you would just type in $92.99 here. So you're buying, your unit is a pack of 72, so you're buying 1 unit, right? You're not buying 72 units because we're calling the pack a unit. Okay, each case, really I should say a case, right? In fact, I could even put case here if I wanted to, right? Case, 72 items per case. Okay, and I could put here case and pack, same idea, but just to, you know, keep it in line with the supplier. So case of 72, 1 case of 72 purchased at $92.99. So the cost per item, individual item, is $1.29. And sorry about this, I have to fix that. Okay, so this will be fixed on your copy. I'll make sure it's that kind of stuff is fixed when you get your copy, but I'm just going to fix that right now. Okay, so basically at this point I would just put the Amazon ASIN here, and here's the product on Amazon, by the way, and you can see you know, the price difference and all of that. But the purpose of this video is not to calculate profit. This is to organize and store your purchase data. All right, and the purchase units per ASIN is 1. Okay, that's going to be 1. And see, so we have to, I just really want to make it clear, in case it might be confusing to some people, that there's a difference between the units and items, right? The unit is what you define what a unit is. So for this product, the case is a unit, right? The case, the unit is a case. The item is this item that's inside of that case, right? So when we get to the purchase units per ASIN, all right, it's 1. because if you look at the Amazon ASIN, it's a case of 72, and if you look at the supplier, it's also a case of 72. So one of these purchased matches one of this ASIN, right? Matches this ASIN, so it's 1-to-1 again, right? And that's going to be very common for it to be 1-to-1, but sometimes it isn't, because sometimes there might be a situation where they are selling this as individual items, separate items, right? So then it would be different, and then you'd have to enter things differently, right? Luckily, this is not one of those cases, because then it gets a little more, just a little more complicated. But for most cases, it won't be complicated. Most times it's going to be pretty simple, fairly simple, right? And if you use this, if you get the system and you use it, let me know if you run into any situations with the product where it is a little more complicated and you're not sure how to enter it on the sheet, because then that will help me to see maybe some ways to help with that. All right, but this is basically the setup. So basically that's it. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is, I mean, that's not it for the whole process, but that's it for adding those two items to the sheet. Now what I'm gonna do is actually add this to the cart. Okay, and I'm gonna view the cart. Okay, and you're gonna see that you get a new total. You get the subtotal $92.99 here for this one. You get the subtotal here for this one. All right, and that's why in this spreadsheet it does not calculate the subtotal, because you really can't, because you don't know what deal you're going to get from the supplier. So the subtotal has to be typed in, right? Because you can't calculate it in here, because we don't know if you're going to get a deal like this. So I can't just calculate from a unit price, because I don't know what the subtotal is going to be. Okay, the supplier is going to tell you, and then you're going to enter it. Okay, now the subtotal of the whole order is $260.40. Let me show you how this part works. Let's go on to the next sheet. Now the next sheet is the purchases sheet. Now this is where you enter your individual items on the items purchased, but for the overall purchase, this is where you enter the information. So you're going to go to purchase number 1. Remember, this purchase is purchase number 1. Okay, that's the number. 2 different items, same purchase. And again, we do repeat the supplier. I mean, I just want to have that on both pages, just so I can, keep track of where the stuff is coming from, of course. Again, the date, I'll put July 10th. It automatically determines the month, and that's just for use on another sheet. When you complete the order, you'll have an order number, right? Right now I don't have an order number. Okay, the user account, in case you have different accounts, I'm going to put Excel for Sellers Club. That's the account I'm on right now on the web store. When you get the order number, you put that in. Okay, the subtotal is going to be $260.40. 260. Now I'm doing it like this, but if you want, you can actually go ahead and complete the order first, then do all of this stuff after. Okay, then go back and put in the individual things, right? So I'm doing it like this to show you bit by bit. Okay, but when you do it realistically, you can go ahead, check out, you do the full process, and then you can come back and fill in your sheet. All right, so when I go to check out, this is where I'm going to get the full data. So now I have the subtotals $260.40, and I have the shipping, which is $43.59, and I have the tax. So now I'm going to go here. I'm going to put 43. First of all, what's the tax? Tax is 2014. Shipping is $43.59. So tax is 2014. Shipping is $43.59. Right? I don't see any handling or any other costs on there. Okay, so now let me explain this part. This is added costs. What do I mean by added costs? Added costs. These are the costs, as I put in this note, that were added on after the subtotal. They will be divided over the items that were purchased to determine the additional cost of each item. So basically, this is your subtotal. Everything else that gets added, tax, shipping, handling, whatever else, those are the added costs onto the subtotal. Why these are so critical is because look how large this is, right? And this is why buying more items at one time from this type of supplier is going to be better, because then your shipping is going to be less, right? Of course, you can also sign up for free shipping with Plus or something like that, but let's say you don't have that deal. Okay, you're not paying 100. Let's say you're not doing that. You're not paying for free shipping every month. Well, then you need to consider these costs, because this increases the cost of the items that you bought. So this is the additional cost of $63 added on to this purchase number 1. The net cost of the whole purchase is automatically calculated, just added with the subtotal, $324.13, which you should see here, the same number, $324.13. You can see that they match, right? The totals are the same. The final charge, this means what are you actually going to get charged? Why do I have a separate thing for final charge? Because sometimes, in some cases, your charge, might be different, because maybe you have a gift card or something like that, or some other deal. I don't know. And so maybe you're not actually going to charge $324. So that's why it's separate. So you have to retype that over here. This is the actual amount that you're going to charge or be charged, and the account that you're going to charge it to, right? This is good to keep track of your accounts. So let's say you're using, I don't know, a particular bank. Let's say you're using Chase or something. Okay, I'm just going to put Chase, and let's say the account, you put like the last 4 of the whatever, the card number, whatever you want. Chase 1234. That could be the name of your account. You come up with the name yourself, and you know that this much was charged to that account. Okay, so now this really comes later in the video, but I'm just going to quickly show you why I do that. And it's because if I put here Chase 1234 on the charge account section, it will now show that I made that purchase. I have that total purchase associated with this account. Okay, and that comes up later in another section, but I just wanted you to see that that feature. Okay, because that's going to be useful too. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to items purchased, and what I want you to see is that additional cost, okay, that $63.73 additional cost, that's going to get added back on. That's going to get added on to these items. And as you can see, it's $15.93, and you might be saying, well, why is it $15.93? So all it does is it looks at how many units you're buying altogether, which is how many? 3 units of the first one of the first 4 units, and then it takes this amount, the 63 extra dollars that you're paying in shipping and tax, and is dividing it by the 4 units that you're buying, and it's saying, okay, you're spending an extra $16 per unit to get this thing shipped and to cover the taxes. So that way you're not deceived about the real cost. So really your cost per unit is not $55.80, it's really $71.74, and your cost per unit here is not $92.99, it's really $108.92 per unit, right? Your cost per item, well, here it's just one item, so it's just the same thing, $71.74. Here you're getting 72 items in the unit case. So when you take the 108 and divide it over the 72 items inside of it, each little item inside that case is basically $1.51 for each one, right? And the thing to keep in mind here, although I do have Amazon ASIN here and all of that, for your convenience, this is not just for Amazon. This is to keep track of your purchases for just overall. So if you decided to sell this product on a different marketplace besides Amazon, you also just need to know the cost per item, because although on Amazon it is a case, right? What if you decide to sell it on eBay, right? What if you decide to liquidate these or something like that, and you just decide to sell them on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or wherever you sell stuff. You need to know what you paid for each individual item, because maybe on eBay you're just going to sell one at a time, right? You might sell these one by one, or you might sell them four at a time, or whatever. And how useful it's going to be to know, well, I paid $1.51 for each. That's what it cost me. That was my average cost for each one, and I know that because I bought a case of 72, and the total cost was 108.92, and when you divide it, this is what I paid for each one. And that's what this spreadsheet takes care of for you. It does that math for you, right? Okay, so that is basically the process. So now I'm not going to do, one purchase is enough to get the idea. So obviously I will just say, however, if you're going to do another purchase, of course you're going to have to put 2 here, right? And then start your next purchase in item number 1, item number 2, item number 3, so on and so forth, right? And put in the information, okay? With the table, it's very easy to modify. You can delete very easily rows. Okay, so the way that this system is set up using preset formatted Excel tables, which I found is going to be easier for you to work with in this case, right? And I just want to take a look at this purchase again, just as a reminder, right, that you have this here, you have ship date. Now, a lot of times things get shipped individually. They don't always get shipped together. So actually you can do the shipping information per item. And again, optional. If you don't want to do that, don't do it. But you can put the date, where you're shipping it to, who the carrier is, the tracking number, put the tracking link in here so that you can come back and keep checking it. Put when you expect to receive it. You can keep track of whether or not you received the item right here, the date that you received it, and all of that. Okay? So all of that stuff you can keep track of with this system. Alright, so that's the purchases section of the system, and now I will go on to show you the another section of the system.